بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ويل لكل همزة لمزة الذي جمع مالا وعدده يحسب أن ماله أخلده كلا لينبذن في الحطمة وما أدراك ما الحطمة نار الله الموقدة التي تطلع على الأفئدة إنها عليهم مؤصدة في عمد ممددة. Woe to every scorner and mocker who collects wealth and continuously counts it. He thinks that his wealth will make him immortal. No, he will surely be thrown into the crusher. And what can make you know what is the crusher? What is the crusher? That is the fire of Allah, eternally fueled, which mounts directed at the hearts. Indeed, its fire, indeed, it will be closed down upon them in extended columns.
Here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَيْلٌ لِكُلِّ هُمَزَةٍ لُمَزَةٍ. Surah Al-Humazah is a Meccan surah. It was revealed in Mecca. It has 33 words and 133 letters. In this surah, which comes after Surah Al-Asr, and let's look at the connection between the two. Surah Al-Asr is talking about what? Time, but what about time? It is talking about the means of salvation. This is the theme of Surah Al-Asr. The means of salvation. So it is using your time in the four ways that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned in Surah Al-Asr, those who have been excluded from being at loss. Al-Humazah in this surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala informs us about those who have not used their time wisely. Those who have not used their time wisely. And therefore they become from the category of the losers. Now, you'll see this inshallah ta'ala become clear as we go through the surah. The main theme actually of this surah, if you could sum it up into one thing, is that Allah Azza wa Jal is warning us about the disease of pride. Now, nowhere in the surah will you see the word pride, which is kibr in Arabic, but inshallah ta'ala you'll see that it is pride that has led them to do the things that they have done, because this surah is talking about what? Those who slander and backbite others, and those who gather up their wealth, count their wealth, and they believe that their wealth is going to allow them to live forever. That their wealth is going to allow them to be immortal. Like, the first thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in this surah is وَيْلٌ لِكُلِّ هُمَزَةٍ وَيْلٌ لِكُلِّ هُمَزَةٍ لُمَزَةٍ. Humazah, the scholars have different opinions over how to explain both Humazah and Lumazah, but in general, Humazah is one who belittles people by their gestures. So they make gestures about people and they belittle them. So for example, if someone goes like this, or the Arabs do like this, what does that mean?
Crazy.
Huh? That somebody is crazy, huh? Like, so he doesn't actually have to say it off of his tongue. This is someone who is making hams. All right? Or, for example, like this. Somebody is short, fat, whatever. People do different things, and different cultures have different ways, different means of speaking ill about someone, or intending ill about someone by using gestures. Whereas lems is using the tongue to speak evil about someone by either backbiting them or slandering them or sowing discord between people. all of this is from al-hams wal-lams. The next type of person that is mentioned, الذي جمع مالا وعدده, the one who gathers up wealth and counts it. Notice here that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then he says, يَحْسَبُ أَنَّ مَالَهُ أَخْلَدَ, that he believes, that he thinks that his money is going to make him live forever, that is going to make him someone who is immortal. Like here, الَّذِي جَمَعَ مَالًا وَعَدَّدَ, he has gathered up the money and he counts it. So it is not enough that he just gathers up the money, but he also wastes his what? Time. He wastes his time counting the money. So he gathers it and then he counts. And this becomes his life. His life circles around these two things: gathering up the money and counting the money. And then gather up some more and count some more. Likewise, the one who busies himself with talking about others, and that becomes his nature almost. When he sits down for lunch with the family or dinner with his family, they begin. The son starts talking about the neighbor. The daughter talks about her classmate. The father talks about his employees. Wife talks about her girlfriends. And everybody is at the table, and the whole time they are talking about other people. And it starts from up top. It starts from this type of person who, what happens is that his children learn from him how to talk about other people. They become professionals in speaking about others. And this becomes their hobby. And they use their time doing what? When they sit down, does the father teach his child, wait a minute, what do you say before you eat? What do you say after you eat? What did the Prophet ﷺ teach us to say when you come in the house? What did the Prophet ﷺ teach us to say when you leave the house? See, no, that doesn't happen in these type of gatherings. He begins to talk about somebody. And so what happens is the children, they learn from this. That, wait a minute, if I want to gain the favor of my father, I want to be a part of the discussion, then all I need to do is find someone to talk about like my father. So, this is how they get trained. They get trained to speak about other people. But if the gatherings that they have are different, if when the father is eating, or they're sitting down as a family, they're having family time, and these other types of things come up, and they begin to talk about some of the plans that they have to be better Muslims, for example. How are we going to take advantage of the first 10 days of Dhul Hijjah, for example, since we're in the month of Dhul Hijjah, even though they already left? Muharram, for example, is coming up. And it is the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ to fast on what day of Muharram? The 9th and the 10th. Yeah, fine. This shouldn't be something that misses us. Yeah, you have a question? So here, the 10th of Muharram is the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ to fast. He said to his companions, if I live to the next year, then I will also fast the day before it, yani the 9th of Muharram. So it's not to imitate the Jews and their fast. So we're about 2 weeks away from that. This should be some of the discussion that we have with our families. What day is possible that it's going to be the 9th and 10th? Is it going to be a weekend or a weekday? What if the kids have to go to school that day? Are they still going to fast or not? What preparation are you going to make so that they have suhoor? What type of, if talk to the end of it? If that is what the discussion is about, if the discussion amongst the family is how to become better servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what things can we do as a family? Shouldn't we we take 10 minutes a day, don't we have 10 minutes a day as a family and read, for example, Tafsir of Ibn Kathir? We can read that. We can open Tafsir of Ibn Kathir in English. We can read Hisbul Muslim as a family, for example, that have adhkar, and we can learn these du'as together that the Prophet ﷺ instructed us to make. Now, some people, Humazah till Humazah, that is what their gatherings become. And it's a disease. الَّذِي جَمَعَ مَالًا وَعَدَّدًا. And usually it stems from a person who is busy doing what? Gathering his money and counting it. Because he begins to look down on other people because he has and they don't have. The 1% and the 99%. The have and the have-nots. And so he looks down on other people because of this fact. Because of the fact that he possesses things. And he doesn't recognize and doesn't acknowledge that this is a favor from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for him that turns into a punishment. It is a favor. But if it's not thanked, then it is actually a punishment because it's going to be asked about. It's going to be asked about everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given him. ثُمَّ لَتُسْأَلُنَّ يَوْمَئِذٍ عَنِ النَّعِيمِ. You'll be asked on that day about the pleasures and the delights that you have. And so his gathering up of that money then causes him to be haughty. It causes him to talk about other people. But not necessarily that gathering of money, because anybody that begins to believe that they are better than everyone else, that they are guided and everyone else is astray, that they have knowledge and no one else has knowledge, that to the end of that they are truly sincere in their worship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and all of these other people are just hypocritical, paying the deen lip service, then what happens is it becomes very easy to talk about other people. So the origin of this sin is what? Pride. It's kibr. What is kibr? The Prophet ﷺ gave us a definition for kibr, for pride, arrogance. He said it is batrul haqq wa ghamtun nas. It is to not be satisfied with the truth, to reject the truth, to ridicule the truth, and to belittle people. To belittle people. This is kibr. Alright, so all of these things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about, وَيْلٌ لِكُلِّ هُمَزَةٍ لُمَزَةٍ الَّذِي جَمَعَ مَالًا وَعَدَّدًا يَحْسَبُ أَنَّ مَالَهُ أَخْلَدًا. That it all stems from pride. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, read those ayat. كَلَّا لَيُنْبَذَنَّ.
Though he will surely be thrown into the crusher. And what can make you know what is the crusher?
So here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, no, this person is not going to live forever. His money is not going to make him be immortal. Rather, he is going to be thrown in al-hutama. And that word in Arabic means something that crushes something. Totally destroys it. And this is the only place in the Quran where the fire of hell has been described as al-hutama. Nowhere else has the fire been described as al-hutama in the Quran except for here. But this hutama is something that crushes something else. It totally destroys it. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us a vivid picture of what is going to happen to this type of individual. And then he goes on to describe, read the rest of the ayah.
It is the fire of Allah, eternally fueled, which melts directed at the hearts.
So the rest of the surah is describing this fire of al-hutama. And this surah contains a general warning for a person not to be arrogant and haughty, that we have to avoid kibr, as well as using one's wealth for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and not just gathering up and counting. And even more so, a warning from the dangers of the tongue in general. As the Prophet ﷺ said, وَهَلْ يَكُبُّ النَّاسَ عَلَى حَصَائِدُ أَلْسِنَتِهِمْ. Listen to this hadith. And is there anything that is going to cause the people to fall on their faces in the fire, drag on their faces in the fire, except for the harvest of their tongues, the product of their tongues? This tongue is something that every time you hear this surah, remember the dangers of using the tongue in a manner that is not pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that it can lead one to be crushed in the fire. And a lot of times, and this is an interesting concept, because a lot of times people, when you think about fire, you think about burning. Right? Because fire does not seem to have any weight. And something that crushes usually has weight. I mean, think about you're scared to be crushed by a building falling in an earthquake or something like that. And you don't usually think about fire in that manner. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all capable of everything. And He described this fire as being what? التي تنطلق على الأفئدة. That fire that either reaches the heart or penetrates the heart. You see in other ayat in the Quran, like in Surah An-Nisa, كلما نضجت جلودهم بدلناهم جلودا غيرها ليذوقوا العذاب. Every time the fire burns their skin, we will give them a new skin. We will give them new skin, so that it can be burnt, so that they can taste the punishment. Now, once something is burnt, then the nerves go away, and you no longer feel it, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is letting those who disbelieve in Him know that there's going to be a constant renewal of the skin, and every time the one gets burnt off, there's a new skin. Here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about that fire that goes up to the heart. Why? What is He talking about in this surah? He's talking about that kibr, that pride that has sent one to do, or that has been the segue for one to do these things that He is mentioning in this surah. And pride is a disease of the what? Heart. Of the heart. Pride is a disease of the heart. And so the fire will go to the heart and purify it. And purify it, because fire is a purifier. So this surah, again, when we hear it, it should also remind us to use our time wisely. It should remind us, when we hear Humazah, we should remember Surah Al-Asr that comes right before it. And remember to use our time wisely in the manner that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prescribed for us, and not to be arrogant and haughty, and especially the two qualities that have been mentioned here, where one misuses their wealth or misuses their tongue. Now,
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ألم تر كيف فعل ربك بأصحاب الفيل ألم يجعل كيدهم في تضليل وأرسل عليهم طيرا أبابيل ترميهم بحجارة من سجيل فجعلهم كعصف مأكول. Have you not considered, O Muhammad, how the Lord dealt with the companions of the elephant? Did He not make their plan into misguidance? And He sent against them birds and flocks, striking them with stones of hard clay, and He made them like eaten straw.
like eating straw, says?
Yes.
In this surah, Surah Al-Fil, there is a change in themes, if you will, from here until the remainder of the Quran. From Surah Al-Fil to Surah Al-Nas is not like what has preceded in Juz Amma. Alright? So as you see, like from the surahs that we started with, which is what the Imam Aziz ibn Baz rahimahullah ta'ala recommended, from Surah Al-Zalzala, Wal-Adiyat, Wal-Qari'ah, Wal-Takathur, Wal-Asr, Wal-Humazah, all of them have been dealing with the hereafter in some way or another.